Welcome to AGS On Demand, brought to you by Allegis Global Solutions, the leading provider of global workforce solutions. AGS On Demand is an on-demand webinar series that highlights the latest innovative thinking, technology, and practices shaping the workforce solutions industry. Today's conversation, Orchestration with AI, designing intelligent workflows for real business impact, goes beyond the surface of the AI workforce conversation to show how AI-driven orchestration is enabling smarter workforce design and moving organizations beyond disconnected pilots to measurable outcomes. You'll hear from two leading experts in workforce technology and transformation, Ian Blake, Executive Director of AI and Technology Transformation at Allegis Global Solutions, and Brian Deladone, co-founder and research partner at Talent Tech Labs. Now let's turn it over to Ian and Brian and their conversation on how AI-driven orchestration is creating a real impact for today's workforce leaders.
Hi, and welcome to AGS On Demand, where today we are tackling a new favorite industry buzzword, orchestration. My name is Ian Blake, and I'm the Executive Director for AI and Technology Transformation here at AGS. I'm joined today by Brian Deladone from Talent Tech Labs, who's currently hunkered down in a severe snowstorm. So Brian, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Thanks, Ian. Happy to be with you today. As Ian said, I'm Brian from Talent Tech Labs. I'm the co-founder of the company. We started it 12 years ago. Today, we're part of the AGS family of companies, and our group is the research and advisory arm that provides non-biased insights into all the trends and emerging technologies across the market.
Thanks, Brian. So to get us started, something that I'm realizing is that most organizations today aren't short on ideas for AI, but they're short on a way to translate those ideas into consistent and measurable outcomes. So this is what we're going to look to discuss today through the lens of orchestration and AI. So Brian, do you want to get us going and sort of share some of the key findings that TTL have uncovered regarding the evolution of AI, particularly in our space?
So AI is not new to the parlance in talent acquisition. It's been around for about 10 years or maybe a little bit more. And it started out with natural language processing and machine learning. And it was very predictive. So we call that predictive AI. And that's been around, as I said, for quite a while. And it's now kind of replete across the ecosystem of solutions in the talent acquisition and talent management spaces. More interestingly, though, was when ChatGPT was released, we really brought in the era of large language models, which are widely trained models that are able to understand and communicate with people, making predictions that are ever increasing in their accuracy and correctness. Over time, those models got faster and faster. The computing power went up, and eventually gave enough time for the models to think and sort of rehash the answers they had originally given, and to the point now where they have context. And once context was attained, we sort of entered the era when agents could be formed. Agents are large language models that have been amped up in such a way that they are contextually aware and as a result can take action on behalf of individuals. And so they're able to follow a process from start to finish and do it on their own autonomously. And today they're multimodal. So they are taking in voice, video, data feeds. And so they're able to amalgamate all these inputs and then take action. And in fact, they are now able to perform end-to-end tasks that were once or currently performed by humans. So a very exciting time to see these agents coming to market. Sometimes we refer to them as digital workers. So not only are they able to change the way work is done, they're actually able to do work. And so as a source of talent, it adds a new complexity to or capability to our ability to source getting work done in the most efficient way. The Talent Tech Labs ecosystem looks at all of the solutions across the talent acquisition continuum, and in fact, even wider across talent management. But it's truly important to be looking at these in a complete and holistic domain fashion. That means looking at the tools that are used in full-time, in part-time, in contingent and gig, and now digital workers as well. And across the Talent Tech Labs ecosystem of solutions in this space, we now track AI both as the wrappers, if you will, the generative AI wrappers around the point solutions, but we're also looking at the foundational models, which is where you have the ChatGPTs, the Anthropics, the Google Geminis, and then you move into the infrastructure layer, and then eventually the layer of digital workers. So let's unpack that a little bit. And there's a little bit of an illustration here that hopefully helps us get our heads around it a little bit better. So as I was saying, at the base of the pyramid is the foundational models. And these are large language models like Claude and Kimi from DeepSeek and Gemini from Google and others. But essentially, these are the large language models that are the foundations that all the other software users, software builders use to build their platforms. The next layer up is the infrastructure layer, and that's where companies provide the tooling for organizations to build and deploy agents in a secure and compliant fashion. So companies in this layer are like Salesforce with its Agent Force, Microsoft with its Agent Studio, ServiceNow with its Studio Orchestrator, and Workday with its Agent System of Record, ASOR. And so there's absolutely an arms race going on now with these infrastructure providers trying to control that orchestration layer, because that's critically where all the action is going to be happening. And so they're spending profuse amounts of money to try and own that real estate and have companies use their layer to orchestrate the way agents perform across the work. The last piece of the pyramid at the very top is what we're calling AI workers. And so these are virtualized, verticalized agents designed to perform end-to-end tasks, usually within a single function, like doing sales outreach, customer success, legal research, or software development. And so these capabilities now in market are a host of point solutions that are doing very individual tasks and are pretty bespoke to the organization's needs. There's a subset of that category called AI recruiters, which are taking on different aspects of the recruiting function, like sourcing, like candidate interviewing, like matching. And so these agents are able to perform parts of what a talent acquisition or a managed service provider's team might be doing to find and identify the right candidates to go in and present in satisfying a job rec. But at the same time, these point solutions are proliferating. And so I think it's really crucial, getting back to the core of our conversation today, the critical success factor here with this proliferation of agents is finding out just exactly how to orchestrate them with precision. And I believe that the best way this will be done is when people can look at a function like a domain function in talent acquisition holistically, end to end, and actually look for outcomes as opposed to getting bogged down in the very technological pieces that are making it work. And so maybe Ian can unpack for us now exactly what he's been working on to address these outcome-based use of orchestration.
That's great. Thank you, Brian. And orchestration is such a big word. I think it's becoming one of those words that really sounds great, but means some different things depending on who's saying it and the context. So I was going to give you my view of that. So to me, orchestration, when we talk about orchestration, we're really talking about two different things. At its core, when we think about the workforce solutions industry, orchestration is about how work gets done. So intentionally coordinating people and services and increasingly more digital workers instead of defaulting to one channel or one team at a time. So what this really means is starting at the intake. So knowing what we're trying to achieve with work, deconstructing that work, then what are the components to getting work done, and then triaging that to the best execution model. So that's perm, contingent services or digital workers, as you were talking about. And that makes an orchestration a business-led process, not necessarily a tech-led solution. And that orchestration then does drive measurable outcomes. So we're thinking about cost avoidance or risk mitigation, speed, transparency, and improved decision quality. And then this ensures that work, or by ensuring that work's routed through the right channels with governance from the start, we can drive those outcomes. So that's really the first way of defining orchestration as the way to get work done. And then when we talk about sort of our world and the technology, orchestration in the sense of technology, it's really the tech capability, the systems and the AI that connects those decisions and those workflows and those agents so that this model actually works at scale. And this relates to a tech platform that you were covering there, Brian, the orchestration layer, the coordinated AI agents, and the event-driven workflows across the systems. So I'm going to try and kind of blend those two together, because I think in our particular world, and we think about workforce solutions plus the technology and AI capability, we've got to look at orchestration as kind of a blended view of both those things. So when I think about it this way, I think about orchestration isn't necessarily just the technology. It's really talking about the intent. And technology is the tool that makes that intent executable at scale. And real orchestration then starts before execution, at the moment that the demand enters the system. And that's really kind of how I've been thinking about it. And as an AGS, I've been trying to work out how do we make the most of these new tools that are coming out at such pace to then ensure that we both are connecting the tools together, but also ensuring that our customers have that well orchestrated solution at the end as well. So it's a balancing both those priorities. Essentially, we're trying to blend both those perceptions. One of the other things that we're seeing is some of the challenges around AI technology and its role, and one of the interesting surveys or reports, the studies that came out recently was an MIT survey of CIOs that indicated that only around 5% of AI related projects are showing some good return, and 95% of the projects are sort of stuck in or delivering no value. And it's an interesting sort of state of play. I think often that's because of the speed with which things are coming in, and AI seems to be the solution for everything, but is it actually realizing true value? And when I analyze that and look at it across our industry, I think about, okay, well, potentially maybe that's something sometimes to do with the way that decisions are made. We think about AI's solutions, but the way that it's applied sometimes is applied at the wrong part of the process or in a broken process. So, for example, sourcing decisions, sometimes those are made late or they're made inconsistently. So decisions about how work gets done often gets made after the work is already framed as a role or a requisition or a supplier request. And then by the time that AI enters that conversation, the biggest levers like channel selection or risk or cost structure are already locked in. So AI is often used to optimize a bad decision rather than inform a better one. And then also you get this kind of view of disconnected AI pilots. So sometimes individual AI use cases that operate in isolation, so outside of a common intake or governance or data and decision framework. So the impact remains very localized, quite fragile, and really hard to scale across an enterprise. So what we figure out is that pilots can prove that AI can work, but it doesn't always prove where it should work or how it scales across the enterprise. So I think what we are having to challenge or wanting to see is that a move from organizations seeing AI as a technology problem versus a work and decision problem. And then without the orchestration, AI just becomes another layer of complexity, not necessarily a driver of outcomes. So I painted a pretty negative picture of it there, but it's a little bit, I wanted to look at a little bit of the reality of what I'm seeing. And I don't know if you have a comment or want to jump in on that, Brian.
No, that's exactly right, Ian. I think that the technology is coming faster than organizations are able to scale and adopt it or manage the change that it will bring. And so you're seeing some proof of concepts that are usually isolated. You're seeing sort of suboptimal deployments as people tinker with it, but really have not been able to get their arms around deployment at scale. And orchestration is really the critical success element that's necessary for you to be able to get your head around what is it going to take to orchestrate these processes top to bottom in a compliant fashion so that we're thinking about the business user needs and the candidate needs and the hiring manager's needs all kind of in a holistic way. And so until they're linked together, it's going to continue to be sort of suboptimal. And I don't think CFOs are going to stand for that for very long because they're pouring a lot of investment into this and they're looking, pretty aggressively now. Where's my savings? Where's my efficiency? And so looking at these things holistically so they can actually generate marketable, measurable, outcomes for organizations is really important to happen and happen pretty soon.
I agree with that. And at AGS, what we are trying to do to solve this is ensuring that all new ideas that come through, whether they be process related or technology related, are number one, well defined, that we have good sponsorship on them, and we align to those ideas to 4 distinct value gates, whether those be cost, growth, intelligence, or operational effectiveness. And that ensures that we aren't developing or executing any projects or ideas or investment that doesn't have a measurable outcome straight from the beginning. So if an idea doesn't pass a value gate, we don't pilot it and we don't scale it, and it makes sure that we're making robust and good decisions right at the front about technology, rather than waiting too long for them to become stale or go down the wrong path, for example. So a good example of that is our Acumen Intelligent Workforce platform, which is the tool that we've built to try to solve that deconstruction or that orchestration approach. Kind of what you were describing earlier on, Brian, around how the technology is layered and built out. We've followed a very similar sort of methodology with regard to Acumen, where we have a core foundational technology, which is based on a number of our primary partners and leading technologies that we rely on to deliver our services to our customers. And these are things from CRM technology, candidate engagement technology, our VMS partners for MSP services. We've got screening tech, we've got skills testing, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got a range of different technologies that are embedded within our overall technology approach and our platform, centered around a core CRM capability. But now what's becoming more and more effective is this orchestration layer that we have across the top, which is where we are building dozens of new agents, which will serve our programs and serve our customers from a number of different aspects. So these are things like how do we make an intake process more automated and simple for a hiring manager by using agents to either provide answers to questions or fill in forms for them or create a request in different systems. How do we also utilize Acumen to deconstruct work? So when we have a need to fulfill, we can run an intake process with a hiring manager that goes something like, well, what work are you trying to get done? Let's ingest that into Acumen. We can deconstruct that. We can build out the success profile. We can then forecast some appropriate candidate personas, and then build out sourcing plans based on the types of ideal personas we're looking for. And it also provides some up-to-date real-time market analytics that determine things like what should we be expecting in terms of what's the location strategy or the cost per hire potentially, or time to fill for these particular roles based on live data that we have within the Acumen Insights capability. So building all that in there is a really exciting addition that we've added to Acumen, and you'll see on the screen a few of the different agents that are being built and sort of put out there right now. This system has been in build for more than a year. We did our pilot in July last year in 2025, and we've started launching this to customers back end of 2025 and into 2026. We've been launching this tool to more and more of our customers. So we're very excited about what this is leading to, because the goal is to save time on that intake process. We want to make sure that we're adding value and consultative elements to that part of our service. We're also seeing some really marked improvements in the reduction in number of amount of rework or sort of replaying of intake conversations, because you can get to a lot of the data a lot faster and make that informed decision straight out the gate. And then coming very soon after that will be some additional triage capability, where we'll then automate that process through, okay, now we've decided what we're trying to achieve. Then we'll use our triage capability to just determine which is the right route to market, because it won't always be that this needs to be a contingent hire because we've done it that way before, or a permanent hire or a service. Might be a combination of all those, or based on the work on the success profile that we've determined, it might alter the request. So that's really where we are investing a lot of time and energy, and we're very excited about what the potential that looks like, because it is really changing the conversation at that intake process, and we are getting a lot more confidence from our hiring managers in that we're making the right decision, and therefore when we bring in the worker or bring in the resource to get the work done, we have a higher degree of confidence that it is going to be a successful hire or a successful service. So that's really how we are focusing our AI and agentic solutions within Acumen. I think we wanted to talk a little bit about the outcomes of orchestration now, Brian. And I think if you want to kick us off just talking about how we measure those outcomes, what should companies be looking for? What does success look like with regard to orchestration and the utilization of AI?
Well, we think that the future operating model where work is effectively orchestrated is kind of the ultimate prize. And that means building a governance model of the agile workforce to get work done perpetually in the most efficient means possible. And so we oftentimes refer to this as optimizing for the 5 Bs. And so it starts at the very top with workforce strategy and design, understanding the jobs and the work to be done, disintermediating the tasks and understanding the skill gaps that might exist, and then redesigning and optimizing the work to be done in the most efficient way possible. And so that allows the workforce in the run mode to then make a determination early on. Do we build this talent, that is by training and reskilling, upskilling of our existing workers? Do we buy it? Do we hire full-time to address it? Do we borrow it, which is using staff augmentation or gig workers? Or do we automate it using a bot? And then the last B in the 5B paradigm is to bundle it, which is basically to outsource it to create an SOW. And so we believe that this is the future operating model that will be successful in allowing organizations to truly transform not only the way work is done, but the nature of how work is delivered and the makeup of the workforce.
Yeah, and I think that leads in directly onto those core measurements of costs. So can we reduce leakage? Can we avoid rework? Are we managing risk with better worker classification, lower co-employment exposure, etc.? Are we improving the speed with fewer resets caused by late decisions? Are we addressing transparency, making sure there's good visibility into our labor mix, and the decision quality overall? Is that consistent? Is that auditable? And are we making that an improvement there too? So those outcomes are critical. So overall, orchestration really is going to help reduce cost and risk while improving speed and transparency, not only of the way of acquiring workers, but also getting work done once they're onboarded as well, because you've made the right decision upfront with governance built in as well. So that's the way we see it. So in my perspective, just to sort of round that piece out, is thinking about, let's not start with tools. Let's not start with the agents. Let's start with the intake and the definition of work, and then we start to build in the rest of the solution from there using the 5Bs, and then really being conscious of the value that those particular solutions can create. That's
great stuff. I think candidly, having a view of the market as we do, the solution that you're building, Ian, is world class, and we think is going to be the best and most expedient way to unlock this capability for organizations. So excited to see it, being explained in more detail and allowing people to tinker with it and start to unpack and see how it might be applicable to their own use cases.
That's great. Well, let's wrap it up there, I think, for today, Brian. So thank you very much for the time. If anyone has any wants to follow up further with Talent Tech Labs and get into some of the detail of what Brian was sharing earlier on, obviously reach out to Brian on LinkedIn and talenttechlabs.com and obviously to me as well. And if you want to talk about what we're doing with the Acumen platform and how we're solving for this at AGS, allegusglobalsolutions.com, or reach out to me on LinkedIn and we'll connect then.
Thanks, Ian. Great conversation.
Thanks, Brian.